Welcome, everybody, to Mud Flood Was Armageddon. Mud Flood was Armageddon. Don't let them tell you anything else unless they are willing to debate you in a fair and honest way, talking about the scriptures. I went ahead and, hopped on right now. I've got the show planned. RJ is going to take just a couple of minutes. Uh, the algorithms, everything about YouTube has been messing up right now, but I don't I don't want to go forward on this one with the tabs. Maybe I'll just show a couple of pictures, but this will just be a couple of seconds. If nobody's going to listen yet, but when there's a couple of people popped on. So this is going to be a wonderful show. And as you know, we've had quite a bit of, action in what they're calling the little season theology. It's everywhere. Hey, Luther, so good to see you. You should hop on, get online, because this is going to be a show that, wow, it answers a lot. And piling on to what we've learned the last couple of days, something was going on last night. I'm going to share. Randy has the picture. I don't know if I downloaded it or what, but I sent him a picture, and here he is now. Morning, Randy.
Good morning to you.
We got. I was just going to explain. I sent that picture to you. Luther couldn't sleep last night. I think something's.
I didn't sleep worth a crap either last night.
Okay.
And the full moon is,
The full moon is up, and for some reason,
2 nights or Saturday night was full moon. So
yeah, it's what I'm just trying to say is it looked full to me when I saw it this morning. There's something up. That dust that I sent you, I want everybody to know I took that picture to show you the dust that came under my door. And I'm sitting here on top of the world as far as weather is concerned for the United States. What causes the hurricanes during La Nina? It's the sand from Africa, the dust that mixes in the air as it comes over and settles in the United States, blows over the Atlantic up in the atmosphere. And now I live by a desert in Alamosa, and there's dust coming under my door. That means that when I went to sleep last night, that was not there. All of that dust that I showed you that came under my door, and that's a lot, has gone up into the atmosphere starting at 7,544 feet. That's the Alamosa, we're way up there and we're surrounded. So the weather doesn't really affect us that much as the rest of the country. But the dust goes up, and right now, as of last night, it is headed towards the Midwest across the plains, and all of that fueled weather that everyone has been hearing about. Now that precipitation is going to have hurricane type dust, in my opinion. And the prophecies that were of judgment on the throne of Satan in LA, we'll see how that plays out. But now that you're here, we can move on. First, we're going to just look at I'm going to just show the tabs in case there's a few surprises coming up. First, starting with a John Murray spear. Bring him to mind, an American spiritualist known for his attempts to construct. Have you ever heard of an electrically powered Messiah?
Before now, I don't believe I have. I don't recall it.
All right. Well, he was born in Boston in 1804, member of the Universalist Church, which means they are non-Trinitarian, and then got led down the primrose path of Blavatskyism. The pastor of his church was this guy, that guy. He became ordained and was the head of the Underground Railroad through Boston, break ties with the Universal Church to get that electrical Messiah thing going. Claimed he was in contact with the Association of Electricizers. And he
Okay.
believed that these spirits, group of spirits that was in contact with them, included Ben Franklin, Tom Jefferson, John Quincy Adams, Benjamin Rush, John Murray, and some other guides from the past. A new motive of power, a perpetual motion machine compared to Jesus Christ, intended to power the world with supernatural energies. And boy, the 1800s were weird. Maybe we'll get some more of that. We're going to look at the Institutes of Biblical Law. I've got this book pulled up, ready to go. Oh, sometimes deep thinkers need their brains scratched and reminded that other great thinkers have thought the same. Randy, you ever heard of Martin Luther?
The one that did the Reformation thing in Europe.
Yeah, that whole thing. Well,
Yeah, I'm familiar. Yeah, some people share the same names, but I want
right. Well, we're talking about the one who wrote the book in 1525. That's what they call it. Bondage of the Will. I've never read the 470 page version of this, and I was just wanted to read from this book today because I find it so comforting. So I pulled it up and said, Lord, I want to read something from this book. So he said, how about this? We're just going to pick it up in part 2 and imagine, put on your, like you're going to read a William Faulkner book. He starts his books in the middle and you'll catch on later. So you'll figure out this sentence. Part 2. Which thinketh all good of every man, and is in no wise suspicious, and believes and presumes all good of her neighbors, calls any baptized person you please a saint. Nor is there any mischief if she is mistaken, because it is the lot of charity to be deceived, exposed as she is to all the uses and abuses of all men, a general helper to the good and to the evil, to the faithful and the unfaithful, to the true and to the false. But faith calls no man a saint except he be declared such by a divine judgment, because it is the property of faith not to be deceived, so that whereas we ought all to be accounted saints mutually by the law of charity, still no one ought to be decreed a saint by the law of faith, as though it were an article of faith that this or that man is a saint. It is in this way that the Pope, the great adversary of God, who sat himself in the place of God, canonizes his saints, of whom we know, of whom he knows not that they are saints. This only I affirm with respect to those saints of yours, or rather ours, that since they are at variance among themselves, those rather should have been followed who spoke the best things, that is, against free will in support of grace, and that those should have been left who, through infirmity of the flesh, have witnessed to the flesh rather than the spirit. It's getting deep now. Wow. Again, these writers who are inconsistent with themselves should have been adopted and embraced where they speak after the spirit, and left where their Savior, and left where they savor the flesh. Okay, I was reading that. I put an I in there for Savior. They were left where they savor the flesh. This was the part of the Christian reader, a clean animal which parteth the hoof and cheweth the cud. Okay, it's getting crazy, but the main thing is here, we're all saints, but nobody, a pope or nobody else can say, yeah, but this guy's a special saint. You can pray to him, and what they call super aeration, that he has so much extra grace, he can just send some down to you. The pope is a beast. He's a maniac. The fact that he still exists today, this is what I wrote before we get into the rest of this. Did I read that one about the spiritual force? Yep. So I have to start on something new. And this has to do with what you sent me from the Costa Rican president. Remember how, he's ready to say he gave them thing. The money's not going to last. The bubble's going to pop. It's going to be there.
El Salvador.
Right, El Salvador. And here's a wise, foreigner coming to bring us information that your time is running out. Something that everybody knows. We've said it for years that this is unsustainable. You can't just keep printing money and say we're doing something right. They're setting this up for a very particular time. Did you have a chance to see the thumbnail that I made for today?
No, I wasn't.
Okay, then I need to show it.
You were already live when I got to the algorithm. You were already live.
Okay,
and it didn't even let me give you a thumbs up. It went.
Do you see that?
Yep.
The Pelosi's bet on a Bay Area tech company could turn a staggering profit. The trade could yield a profit that's more than 9 times the annual salary of most members of Congress. And of course, that stock won't go, it'll just keep pumping up the money. Wow, the stock market could be rigged, Randy. And people don't even know it. Yet, as of yesterday, because this is all brand new, we're getting ready to go to war with the people that when this is exposed. And then we're going to be so righteously indignant because let me read what I said and then you can comment. Tell someone there is a limit. Tell them the time is running out. Must act decisively. Move. Rouse yourself now, or it'll be too late. Make it a life or death situation. Rise up to an outward threat. Throw the rascals out of government. Gee, I've never heard that one before. And then meet your new boss, who will beat you with scorpions instead of whips when you cry out next time because of your deserved judgment by oppression. Time is almost over. Before there can be a crackdown, things have to get so bad and out of control, it's undeniable. Now what is more out of control than LBGTQ plus QAnon, Q-bots, quantum time, quantum physics, and the only answer is to act now. Rise up. Do not all dictator types, fascist or socialist, then or now, in the eyes of many, the Republic of the United States needs to elect a strong leader to get the country under control from those LBGTQ and, the things that we got to straighten it out by force. And the man from Costa Rica and everybody else knows it's just a time. We got to act now because it's a bubble set up to be popped. The debt thing to show the bubble is going to pop. Yeah. And now it's in their mind. RJ, I had been one of 4 men invited to a brunch with another RJ Rushdoony. Name should ring a bell. And we were allowed to ask him one question. Invited to a brunch, you get one question. I assumed I would be invited, but I didn't pick my question, I had 10 days to think about it before, okay, you're in, RJ's coming to town, you know, first time since, I joined the Christian Liberty Academy. And I asked, will there be an economy in heaven? I had 10 days to think about it, to the man I thought was the smartest person on earth. And he said, that's a crazy question. And I was like, I want an answer, not, will there be
That
an,
was his answer to your question. Is a crazy question. That's his answer.
yeah, will there be an economy in heaven? Because I was pretty much thought I had everything figured out. That was the Institutes of Biblical Laws. The last thing I have written here today, so got to get back to sharing.
Oh, I seen a catchy thing. Was it yesterday? And I'll admit that I myself I'm into LGHD TV.
Huh?
Eh? LGHD TV.
Oh, that's that's the name of your television, and
Yeah.
the HD is high def. Okay,
Yeah, I'm really into it. And I support it.
I do
Regularly.
too. I support YouTube Prime Premium because it's worth $10 a month not to have commercials to me.
Yeah.
I know it's somewhat supporting the evil people, but I don't like the commercials at all. So I read The Bondage of the Will. Where's that other stuff? Oh, I had this whole show laid out in my mind, Randy.
It's just a click away, right?
Here it is. The Institutes of Biblical Law, 1973 book by the philosopher and theologian Ruchus John Rushdoony, affectionately known to everybody as RJ. It is the first volume of a 3-work, also referred to by the same title, which is modeled after John Calvin's Institutes of the Christian Religion. This is the book that was the basis of preterism, Christian Reconstruction. Men like myself dedicated our lives to expounding on the 10 Commandments, obeying God's law, as applied, through Jesus under the New Testament. We were true devotees of R.J. Rushdoony at the Christian Liberty Academy because that's where the Jesuits and the Rosicrucians and the John Birch Society, well, they paid for it. They taught us, what to think, the theonomic perspective. It's the hypothetical Christian form of the government in which society is ruled by divine law. And it's put in place by people who believe in divine law, who convince other people that it would be best to elect leaders that believed in divine law. And I thought that we were going to change the world for good. I didn't know anything about, it's a set judgment. Christianity Today listed it among the most significant books of 1973, calling it the most impressive theological work of 1973, probably why so many of us were drawn to it. We didn't want to have nothing to do with natural law.
Just if does it matter what your laws are if even though you don't enforce them, or
yeah? Well, we were going to fix that because we were going to stop sending those rascals to Congress. You're going to be elected. You better be confessing Jesus Christ and have that transparency. Everybody, it was going to be great.
And the government hasn't been infiltrated by some other.
Well, we didn't believe that, and remember at this time going up until 2012, I was in with these guys, man. I didn't believe that that 9/11 was an inside job. I knew our government was bad, but nobody could be that bad. It took My second vision, well, you know the whole story. A lot of
Yeah.
people don't, but it takes too much time to go over right now. So anyway, is this set up for a reason?
Documented a lot more thoroughly than we probably see today. That's how it goes. You know, we've been given glimpses and butchered.
This is that understanding, Paul.
Yeah.
People are actively working against us to hide more and more. That's why all these amazing architectural buildings, perhaps remnants of the Millennial Reign, have all mysteriously burnt down. All of them have great. Every city has a great fire of the 1800s at some point, or the late 1700s. The Great Fire of whatever, you know, that has destroyed just miles upon miles of buildings and land, you know, and it's shocking. I mean, even where I live in this city in the north of England, it's a small town, you know, and it's not.
So, an expert going on about the Little Season, you know, skeletons, giant proportions,
10 bodies.
You know, this can't keep being the main focus. You know, they want to go. This is the ridiculousness of where it's at, and I'm telling people, you know, with this show and just the few people that will listen, that this will end in disaster. This is an effort to make it think that it's like we're in a Rushdoony world where we can still win, and that this isn't a judgment, and we shouldn't beat our swords into plowshare and act like they don't deserve their judgment and that it's going to be okay. Are you saying something here? Oh, I got it on pause.
That isn't me saying space is real. I know that's not the case. It's an enclosed system. It's limited. It's finite. It's not infinite as we get inverted and told, you know. But I do think it's a lot bigger, a lot more mysterious than we know from our current perspective, which is why I said at the start, we're doing the best we can with what we've got here.
Yeah.
But it's fun to speculate.
Yeah, well, whatever. I am on record saying I think he's too new to be teaching. For some reason, this was left
glad
up.
He wasn't receiving fan mail because he might have written stories to please the letter writers rather than to please himself. I would argue that despite his massive popularity, despite being employed by a huge corporation, despite often referring to himself as a hack, Barks's working style resembled more that of an independent fine artist than it did someone working in mass entertainment. And while this independent approach was half of his formula, the other half was the incredibly high standard of quality he held himself to. His publisher, his fellow artists, everyone around him seemed to believe that comic books were just a passing craze. The other artists in the industry generally wanted to do the minimum effort to get a story by their editor. And
you know, so isn't it weird that last night I would watch this one? You know, I only have a limited amount of time. And I go,
yeah, when you're, I guess, observing someone that has such a talent of producing, you know, the animation in their mind and getting it on paper, I think that's it's interesting to observe. Yeah,
they get a lot more interesting right now.
Fine artist than it did someone working in mass entertainment.
Oops, it was supposed to go right here.
Friendship with him might have been short, but it became the reason I decided to become a manga artist. Soldier responded by singing an opera. Through their shared love of music, the two became friends. The medical student was an amateur artist and offered to draw a portrait of the American soldier. As a thank you for that portrait, the soldier brought the medical student a stack of American comics. That stack of comics changed his life. He would later say of the soldier, "My friendship with him might have been short, but it became the reason I decided to become a manga artist." And that young man's name was Osamu Tezuka.
All right, that sounds so gay. All right, the opera singing guy just goes by here and play the piano. He went in to go, "Oh, you play the piano? Well, watch me sing the opera." It sounds gay. They became friends. This manga is this Japanese art that likes to put little girls in short dresses and look up their skirts. I mean, it's perverted crap. And this guy did it. And he was influenced by somebody that nobody knew for all those years, you know.
Oh, he gets the credit not for that Betty Boop, isn't that who's standing
It's
there?
same era, same tied in, but that was
Yeah.
the underground stuff. But yeah, they all
Yeah.
were impressed by the Duck Man. And that's what this guy was called at Barks. You know, they showed him that nobody knew about, but it's all.
Was not only the best-selling comic, but the second best-selling periodical in the country, outselling every single newspaper, behind only Reader's Digest. In the early 1950s, the Duckman was selling 3 million comics every single month, and yet no one knew his name. Fans, of course, had tried to find out his name, but any requests sent to the publisher were either denied or unanswered. You see, Disney was intent on keeping alive the myth that Walt Disney himself personally drew the comics. That's not a joke. The early Disney short films, where Donald Duck or Mickey Mouse would find themselves in a comic situation, and then a series of visual gags would
It's the
expand from
television and the
situation
radio
and
that
a few minutes later.
brainwashed
But
us.
the Duck comics were actually, at their best, rip-roaring, edge-of-your-seat, globe-trotting comic adventures. They feel less like Steamboat Willie and more like Indiana Jones or Star Wars. Or should I say, Indiana Jones and Star Wars.
Look who all these
Because
people
both George Lucas and
loved
Steven
this
Spielberg
guy
grew up
that the
reading and were
manga
vocal
artist
fans of
was
the
inspired
Duckman.
by.
This famous sequence from Raiders of the Lost Ark is a direct homage to the Duck comics. And unlike the Disney cartoons, the Duck comics are filled with a cast of complex characters. The Duckman gives Donald, Huey, Dewey, and Louie more defined personalities.
Yeah, we're
creates Duck
trained.
Burger and fills it with new characters.
Oh, yeah. Hey,
What that letter said was quite surprising.
whatever you immerse yourself in, you're
Barks
probably going to, yeah.
admitting that he hadn't written back right away because he was worried that this fan letter was a prank. Despite writing the Donald Duck comic for 17 years, the publisher had only ever forwarded him 3 letters, 2 of which were complaints. This is absolutely insane. Not only did the outside world not know the name of the Duckman, but the Duckman himself, the most popular comic artist in the world, had no idea how popular.
And that's how they do it. They compartmentalize. It's like the Beatles. Yeah, we consider them rich. But RJ, they made pennies on the dollar. Same with Elvis Presley.
Oh, yeah.
No sound. Do you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you fine.
Marcella, could you not hear the video? Or because we need to know. Otherwise.
I think, yeah, you're broadcasting okay, on your end.
Right, but we know that YouTube's messing with everybody right now.
Oh, yeah. And then you see the new format today?
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Did you notice that?
No.
When you go to the algorithm and then you click on whatever you're going to watch, where the comments used to be underneath, now that's over to the side, and the heading and stuff is, the other half of that page, and then all the other stuff is straight down. They've reformatted, or it did on mine today.
I did get this.
It's the first time I've seen it in that format.
I did. Okay. Well, we go over the pictures now. Am I showing?
Yep, you're sharing.
All right. I have pulled up Deer Hunting with Jesus. I showed that earlier. Dispatches from America Class War. I really only wanted to read the description of it. American serfs. Inside the white ghetto of the working poor. Republicans by default. Redneck pride and fear in the age of outsourcing. The deep fried, double wide. Love that sentence. Lifestyle. Whatever it takes. The mortgage racket will put you under your own roof. Valley of the gun. Black powder and buckskin in heartland America. The covert kingdom. They plead upon the blood of Jesus for a theocratic state. The ballad of Lindy, England, 1 foot in Ulster, the other in Iraq, an authorized place to die. The American healthcare system on life support. If you like your doctor, you can not keep him. American hologram. The apocalypse will be televised. Alan Doremi was working on a book subtitled The Revolution Will Be Televised at this point in history. Still another picture. The book, The Biblical of Institute of Laws, the ChatGPT says it was a 1973 book by the philosopher and theologian R.J. Rushdoony. It is the first volume, blah, blah, blah. Sounds like Wikipedia. The book has as its set purpose a reversal of the present trend. It is intended as a beginning and as an institute consideration of the law which must govern society and which shall govern society under God. I got another weird picture here. So I was ready to sign on, and I got a little weird box today, Randy. Are you still there? Am I off the air, Randy? Oh, okay. He must be out, but okay. Well, I'm going to keep. I'll show this to you. It says.
I'm here.
Do you see that?
Yeah. I think I'm here.
An issue locating streams on YouTube. When I went to make the video today to sign in, and once I make the video, I don't always sign in. But when I did, it said an issue on YouTube is preventing streams from appearing on channels. So some people aren't going to get this, So I guess StreamYard is admitting, hey, look, this whole shadow banning thing is not our fault. That's what it sounds like, Their advice, we recommend sharing the view on link that can be obtained inside StreamYard with viewers. So if somebody, I guess if somebody did say, hey, I heard you're live, the only way they could see the show is if I send them a link like I send you.
Okay.
Weird, right? So that's
yeah, they control the show, I guess. Yeah.
Here's a quote from another one we're going to look at today about Pitcher, Oklahoma, how it became the most toxic town in America, and how, again, it started in the big reset before World War I. And they made a fortune off of it, and now this town is dying they're all dead as of 2020 or something like that. The last guy just died. We'll look at the Quupa Nation. So that's it. We got the mafia running the world, man.
Yep. You know it.
This guy uncovered a rogue CIA conspiracy. Guess what happened to him? This is from yesterday.
He didn't live much longer after then, huh?
And they're finally releasing it, so that the people who are going to die trying to make America great again, they'll say, why didn't you read this article and realize you were being set up? They didn't care if he had a wife and children.
Oh, right.
This is just, this isn't the guy, that exposed Barry Seal and Operation Crack. This was just a guy that was working for I don't know, what's that one early computer magazine? I'm going to read a couple. Conspiracy theories are dangerous in more than one way. American Conspiracy, the Octopus Murders, is, among many, many things, an expose into the irrevocable damage that can come from falling down the rabbit hole. Wild Wild Country, Netflix 4-part true crime docuseries, is an investigation into what its primary subject believed was the political conspiracy of the century. Yet the further it proceeded down its rabbit hole, the more it became a portrait of the hazards posed by such sleuthing and thinking. You end up dead. Found dead, dubbed as suicide, even though there was, usually when you cut your wrist, you just cut it and bleed. He had 12 separate slash wounds so deep they severed the tendons, and there was blood all over the room from a guy who would not get a vaccine or take any shot because he didn't like shots or blood. He fainted. He was one of those guys, he was employed by that computer age, which was a nerd thing back then. I mean, that nobody knew anything about computers. Much dirtier than Watergate. So I never really got to learn a lot about this. Huh.
So these are clips from this Netflix series thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It just came out yesterday. Yeah, like, hey, they're
and
going
this is the actor that plays the character, or
this guy. Yeah, Danny Coslero.
Okay.
Handsome man who was an American freelance writer, came to attention in 1991. I missed it. He found dead there in West Virginia. Controversial because he had been working on something, about the October surprise theory that was supposed to be so stupid I couldn't even consider it at the time. How could anybody try to tarnish Ronald Reagan? We didn't know at that time. Am I not documented on trying to raise money with the Contras at Christian Liberty Academy so that we could send them money because the CIA wasn't making enough selling the crack?
Yeah, with the, what'd you say, guns under the altar or something? Or
40,000 guns under the altar is what I heard. And they were all pegged to go help Ian Smith retake Rhodesia. Yeah, and people want to think, like, you should trust me. I used to work in video games, and I was a professional gamer. That's that Mark Sargent. All these other people have, very suspicious, can't trace them backgrounds, give them enough fame on YouTube, and then there'll be pictures of Mark Sargent released, with a girl dressed like Tinkerbell riding him like a pony from Pinocchio.
Yeah, that's all good animation. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So enough of that guy. I only have so much time, Randy. The Tar Creek Superfund site is from that town of Pitcher. Another one, like carrying on from last night. Cities in the United States that are Superfund sites that you can't live there anymore or you'll die. But, oh my goodness, this Q-Pa? I mean, really, I'm not like cop a Q. It's a Q thing. Q-Pas, these poor people, man. They only have about, they started out with 10,000 on that Trail of Tears when they got removed forcibly by the person that they want Trump to emulate, Andrew Jackson. He sent 10,000 there. A couple of families made it to Oklahoma. And then they found lead and zinc on the area that they gave them. So they took it back and started doing some mining.
Is that called Indian giving?
Yeah, that's why they call it that. You're an Indian giver. Because everybody knew. Whatever we gave said, here, this is yours. Not really.
Yeah. Well,
Not
until you
really.
realize it was more valuable than what you. Yeah.
It's a ghost town now for more than 100 years. And during World War I, when, for all that steam power, you need lead and zinc. This tri-state mining district provided half of the lead that was used in World War I from one little, 3-town area. My goodness. And this worked until, they worked this up until the 90s. The state collaborated on mitigation and remediation measures, but a 1994 screening result found that 34% of the children in Pitcher suffered from lead poisoning. It used to be that 60 parts per million. Now we've lowered it to 5 parts per million, or this number would have been like in the high 40s. Because it's like lead, mercury. Honestly, it affects people's brains, man. Lead does affect people's brains. This is another town. I've driven past this. From this angle, you miss that where my mouse is, where, imagine right here, there is like one of those major highways run right by it. And this is all fenced off, and you can see don't go here. You know, it's super fun. You'll die just walking on the ground in Gilman, Colorado, and they're in Oklahoma. There's a number of, you know, abandoned sites in the United States that are just too poisoned, but they don't care. They don't care because it's over for them. We're in the last little run.
Yeah, it served its purpose. So.
Right. And, you know, the whole silver boom, well, there's always going to be that bubble, like the 1893 silver crash that led to basically, you know, as I've shown, the money to support the Guggenheims and the art movement to strays, you know, and I found out in a video last night that one of the reasons that they did that was to counter, you know, the Soviet Union. Russia had a thing of where, you know, our art is not, you know, that new age movement, the squiggly lines,
no, abstract or
abstract, right. And I do want to there. I have a little thing that I could do that. The silent poisoning. Now, just give me a second here.
Yeah, patience.
Oh man,
Your focus.
it might have been. You know what? It might have been on one of the videos. Let me see that you sent me.
Well, I sent you a few this morning, so you probably haven't done something older than that. if it's anything that you've reviewed.
I'm going to play a little more of this to see if it jogs my memory.
From a print shop to logging. He got married and had kids, but in the evenings, when he had time, he still worked away at his cartoons and would mail them off to pay.
Are you sharing, or you're just?
I'm just sitting.
11 years after he left home,
not
he finally
sharing.
sold his first cartoon.
I
thought I was.
A magazine called the Calgary Eye Opener. Finally, things were starting to happen for him, but yet again, his personal life had other plans. His wife had no interest in his cartooning career. She wanted to spend their evenings seeing friends, living life, but Barks wanted to spend that time at home at his drawing board. Barks wouldn't give up on his dream now that it was in sight, and ended up separating from his wife and ultimately losing touch with his daughters. He quit his job to focus on selling his cartoons, mainly to the Eye Opener, but his finances were deteriorating. It got so bad that he tried to sell his overcoat, but it was too warm and no one would buy it. Finally, he ended up pawning his dishware so he could have enough money to eat and to send a telegram to the Eye Opener asking for more money. But then he got a break.
Oh boy.
See, the Eye Opener was so poorly run that the drunken editor printed a totally unfinished issue and no one even noticed. The management needed stability, and they saw that Barks was, in his own words, a hard-working son of a gun. So they sent him a telegram offering him a full-time job. Once again, he left his old life behind to start a new chapter in his pursuit to become a cartoonist.
What motivates
the
these
Eye Opener
people?
Was not the San Francisco Examiner. It was filled with racy images, cheap gags, often about booze or women, and a lot of racist caricatures that I won't be showing here. This might not have been the prestigious cartooning career that Barks had envisioned, but finally, at 32 years old, he was a full-time cartoonist. And that might have...
you know, I guess this changed America.
Came the assignment that changed.
Well, yeah, until you get into the underground cartoon stuff like that. Robert Crumb, you know, he had his own set of characters.
Yeah, and the Fleischer, you know, with Felix the Cat and Betty Boop, they all pushed it, you know.
No, but this guy pushed it even, you know, it was whatever, you know, adult, totally adult. Comic books with Robert Crumb, Mr. Natural, you know, that whole
let's see how this wraps up here.
just for his readers, but a chance for Barks to escape his difficult home life. During this time, his second wife had become a serious alcoholic, prone to violent fits in
He
which
sure
she would
can't
smash
pick the
things around the
women.
house and destroy his artwork. But the worse things got at home, the more his imagination seemed to come to life. Barks would produce some of his greatest stories at the motel where he would go to escape her violent rages. They would finally divorce, and Barks would move out, bring only his clothes, his art supplies, and his collection of National Geographic magazines. But it was during this difficult period of his divorce that he created the Beagle Boys, Uncle Scrooge's Money Bin, and Gyro Gear Loose. Barks soon remarried a fellow artist named Garay who had been assisting him with inking, and finally it seemed that his personal life was in order. But sadly, the difficulties were just ramping up in his professional life. Despite Barks's enthusiasm for his work, he did eventually come up against the forces of working at a big company. While many of Barks's greatest stories were the longer, standalone Scrooge or Donald adventures, the publisher began moving away from them, limiting Barks mainly to the 10-page stories, which curtailed his imagination.
Yeah, well, all I can say is that the last couple of days have been a whirlwind. I just want to, what is more out of control than the LBGTQ and QAnon thing? I really think because of the, and maybe that is what I need to show. Because I want people to realize that, yeah, you're going to be where now, even that one that you sent me, maybe I have to go to my emails.
Purposes.
I'll share.
To denounce this new institutionalism. Now, you would think that's it, as it wasn't enough, right? But unfortunately, there's more. There are other symptoms that are even more difficult to diagnose. For instance, the financial situation of the United States. When I talk to my conservative friends right here, they always tell me that the problem is high taxes, but they're wrong. Of course, high taxes are extremely high here in the United States. I give you that. You're right in that. But that's not the real problem. The real problem is not the high taxes themselves, but the fact that they are not even really funding the government. Not even those high taxes, higher than a lot of places in the world, not even those taxes are really funding the government. So who's financing the government? Government is financed by treasury bonds, paper. And who buys the treasury bonds? Mostly the Fed. And how does the Fed buy them? By printing money. But what backing does the Fed have for that money being printed? The treasury bonds themselves. So basically, you finance the government by printing money out of thin air.
Yeah, you made that argument online with me 8 years ago, and nobody cared because the timing wasn't right, by God. And now we're going to hear it with stammering lips and another tongue, and it will be clear that they must rise up. This has gone on too long. We've got to fight. It's their constitutional duty if they find enemies wherever.
Well, yeah, he's witnessing this, from the vantage point of being destroyed by America, and after 50 years of turmoil and generations of finally crawling out of the ashes. This is his advice. Yeah.
No, this is planned advice. This is a lie. He wants to right now incite them to rise up. It's all a plan, because if they rise up right now and fight the government, they are going to die and lose. But it's inevitable. It's going to happen. They wouldn't listen to you. They wouldn't listen to the hundreds of thousands of other people that said, we can't keep spending like this, but this is going to be made a big deal. As much as there's dust in the air from last night in Alamosa, this storm started when I said it was going to start, and it's not going to be over. And this is not going to work, because listening to this man is not going to wake up America and all of a sudden now everything's going to be okay. It is a trap. A few more seconds. Let me see if I can expound on that.
Someone could ask, well, so if the government can print the limited amounts of money out of thin air, why did they collect taxes? I mean, in theory, it would make sense, right? If they can print unlimited amounts of money, why would they need taxes for? The answer is simple, but it's very shocking. The real problem is that you pay high taxes only to uphold the illusion that you are funding the government, which you are not. It's shocking, but it's true.
That should be self-evident.
Money printing.
Oh yeah, it's
paper backed with paper.
It's not a new message. It's just
that will inevitably burst. The situation is even worse than it seems, because if most Americans and the rest of the world were to become aware of this farce, confidence in your currency would be lost. The dollar would fall, and the Western...
And the Lord is letting that message out, that the government they trusted, and they need to make a change, and they will. Our Constitution and everything it's obviously because of the LGBTQ. We can see that there are differences in how the government should be ran that are going to be addressed by force. And when they go to change the government, the big brother type aspect that is going to come out of it is going to shock the right wing, and they're going to be, this is not what we wanted. Well, no kidding.
Civilization with it. If the next president of the United States
there's the urgency,
necessary policies and structural changes,
rise up.
There's still time.
There's still time, but you have to act now.
You can still
supplies are limited
before the water boils.
It's too late.
It's too late to rise up. We're $34 trillion in debt.
60 years ago, you know, a time when they were forcing signing that affidavit thing, there may have been an opportunity, but the way things got cut loose after WW2 and the turmoil that, in retrospect, the 50s, 60s certainly displayed much turmoil here in America with that Vietnam War.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, the Watergate and off the gold stand. I mean, the way things just, you know,
the Clintons, the Obamas.
Sure, we went to the moon. You know, that was a little side distraction.
Oh yeah, that was fun. I mean, I enjoyed that.
You know, but it's the whole thing's been a farce from, well, even before then. But if there was a time, it would have been around, shortly around or time that I was born.
Right. If ladies and gentlemen, RJ is trying to tell you that if there was a time when we could have actually paid off the debt mathematically, we could have fixed it. But with the debt so completely out of control,
could have prevented what's going on. But there's so much other nefarious stuff. Yeah, this plan has been in play for a long time,
and it doesn't end well for the majority of people. Christians claiming to be Christians, people are going to be shocked. What? You never knew me?
Well, the Bible's true, you know. And,
They will not simply go
Sounds
as a consequence of an electoral result. It would take a total reengineering of the government, top to bottom.
Oh yeah, and believe me, their total reengineering of the government. I'd like to read what they do before they pass that law. Do you think they're going to let us?
Well, what the fact of the matter is, it takes an entire generation, whatever, to be programmed to however they're going to be programmed. Generation after. So this isn't anything that can happen, in a matter of a year or a couple years, because our mindset here, the society we live in, isn't going to allow any sort of common sense solution to anything.
No.
It ain't gonna happen.
The only counterintuitive thing to do right now is listen to Baco, run away, don't fight these people, hide. And that's the counterintuitive, because they expect nothing but confrontation. It is, we are a powder keg. And the whole counterintuitive, beat your swords into plowshare and let everybody else tear themselves apart while we suffer living on herbs and food we grow ourselves in the mountains away from everyone else. It's going to happen. There is going to be a survivor group of this, but ladies and gentlemen, it's going down right now. Thus saith the Lord. And any attempt to kick against the goads is going to be damage to your feet for no apparent reason. Because this is not a restoration. We're under righteous judgment.
It will entail making difficult decisions, like the ones we made in El Salvador since 2019, and they're already paying off. It will be hard. The system will push back, but you have the right to determine your own fate.
Hey, Paco.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, in your inbox, I sent you one this morning, and there's a timestamp. I think it was a 12 to 14 at that Apple. Yeah, cue it up at around 12 or whatever. If
appropriate. All the Hades that you're going through right now, I'm not worried about you guys, but you need to remind your buddies that when they believe me, I'm waiting for them to throw somebody into this, and a lot of you are with me on this. When Barry's buddy gets thrown into the mix to save the day, because I'm anticipating, I could be wrong, I'm not predicting this, but I'm holding my breath that at some point we're going to see a massive change up, and we are going to see potentially something, I don't want to say catastrophic, but something very stressful happen, and they're going to have somebody come in to save the day. Somebody that's just not interested. I don't have any interest anymore in being in politics. I really want to leave a private life and be real close to my cook. And I just want to live my own life up here. That's right. That's right. Oh. And then suddenly it's, well, things have just gotten so bad. And
Well, it's okay. Let me just jump ahead. She's on board now with what I prophesied or predicted, because I didn't give it full prophecy, and that is that Barack Obama will be appointed head of the United Nations, and his wife will be elected president of these United States, and people will feel sorry for them because they had to hide their homosexual love, and then the people are going to rebel.
Yeah, they'll have a different chef, but
yeah,
life will go on. Life is good. Yeah.
Oh yeah, because until he killed him in the surfboarding accident, I'm sure they were cooking with gas.
Yeah, we're just going to try to make a difference. Mark my words. It'll be something that happens, and every hell that we're living in right now has been brought on by those same people. Makes you mad? I don't care, because it's the truth.
So yeah, that was.
So there's
I mean,
a lot to learn here. There's a lot to think about. Number one.
Go ahead, Randy.
well, I was just gonna say that was the. I mean, she says a lot of other stuff that's may be worth listening to, but that was kind of for this morning. That, and it was a fresh one, maybe 19 hours or something. That when she put that one out, and she's kind of a common sense girl
Look at
with a
this.
family, and doing what you've been saying.
Yeah.
Get out of the city. She did a one here. The cities are going to burn here about a week ago or less, and then these have been some follow up videos that she's added to since then. But yeah, she's got quite a few subscribers. What was it? 400 and some thousand at the.
Wow. This is an interesting quote from Veilbreak. By the way, in an episode of The $6 Million Man called Burning Bright, guest actor William Shatner, famously known as Captain Kirk, flies to space and says, "Gents, you won't believe this. The Earth is as flat as a table." It's the only episode of The $6 Million Man that YouTube is charging money to view. It was on British TV yesterday. So they're releasing all of it. It's all coming out, It's coming out, the he thought it sounded gay too. That whole manga cartoon thing. Well, shoot. It's 8:00 and I had you know what happened around
I'm gonna
here.
go on my floor now. I finally got to the day where I'm not doing other people's stuff.
So how did what's the COVID situation there in central Wisconsin? Do you
well,
still?
when I was coming back from the farm, well, first I left the farm. I went to the Amish store, picked up some relatively local honey from within 15 miles from where I live, and then I went past that home where that girl that I brought back from Texas, who was a native of where I grew up in Dalton,
Sandy?
Wisconsin. Yeah, I was going to speak to her mother, have a little. And then I was driving by, and Sandy's younger brother, Dale, just happened to be coming out of the house to go to the mailbox. So I whipped it in there, and I asked him if his mom was home. Yeah. And I said, well, I'd like to, maybe have a short talk with her. Well, they both have COVID, but the mother, 92, it wasn't feeling. Dale didn't look too bad, and I talked to him outside for maybe 5 minutes.
Does anybody in your family ever die before they're 90 unless they have cancer or something like that? Anyway, that's the way it rolls in Wisconsin, man. You drive by, you see somebody, you pull in, and where I am in Alamosa, it's a safe place. It can be considered. Randy is of course in a very safe place. He better watch out for the other people that are in that safe place, because I know 4 or 5 families from the Christian Liberty side of that where they're ready to rebel, and they've been well trained, and they're within, well, I'll just say 50 miles of Hayward, and I say I know 5, there could be 50, and they are all single-minded. They'll be like that guy going like, "Yeah, you may be white, but what kind of American are you?" They're that type of people, and they're in your area, so you're going to have to be watching out for both sides, man.
Well, when it comes to off-grid living, I mean, the Amish community, where I'm not a member of, but I'm surrounded, and their off-grid living is quite common.
Yeah, and the Amish only started moving here about 10 years ago. I was amazed when you were
50 years, for 50 years, and they've got roots everywhere around this area, from where I'm at to Portage, and I'm halfway to Ripon, between Portage and Ripon here in Wisconsin.
And I wish people knew what we were talking about, that when I, told them, that, what Hayward is, it's like, well, who wouldn't want to live there? To me, that's the greatest place in the world, but it to a lot of people, it's just like, well, that's too close to a tourist trap. I would never live there, but the reason that Wisconsin has so many of those cool tourist traps, not only Johnny Bartlett, but I mean, everything there is cool, so
it's kind of unique.
Yeah, and I'm not saying, you come to Alamosa, you have to come here, but you have to find a place like where RJ lives or where I live, or you're going to be dead. You're going to be dead if you stay in the city, because the Bible tells you that those people are going to end up eating themselves again. And it's going to be very, very bad in the cities. And like the man from Costa Rica said, it's a matter of time, and that bubble will pop, because everything's planned, because God the Father has warned us that this is a righteous judgment, and it's not going to be R.J. Rushdoony's planned takeover and theocracy of the world. That is a racist, Jesuit, John Birch Society evil plan that we've all been caught up in the truther movement. Any final words, Randy? I've got a lot to do today.
As a citizen of Wisconsin, I don't think I'm alone with, as far as saying, as a state, we would get along fine without Milwaukee, without Madison. There's a couple other communities. You probably could throw Green Bay. There's Appleton.
Kenosha.
There are a lot. I mean, that's so developed basically from Green Bay to Milwaukee.
Even the small ones like Racine and Kenosha, they're liberal.
But
but I don't want to make this a liberal and conservative thing.
No,
I want to make it a saved, unsaved thing.
But I'm just saying how the cities that are well populated. Yeah, if you want to be the cauldron or the meat in the cauldron, that's where you want to be. Yeah.
Oh! I did want to go over a couple of comments. Thank you, Lord. We got a couple of minutes here. We're going to go about maybe 10 more minutes. This one guy asked me which I can consider kind of I received the greatest comment. This man should be down in history. He said, if you wore a mask and stood 2 meters apart, then you would be someone who would do this. And this was the video about how could these people shock somebody to death, for $4, because they were obeying somebody in a white medical coat.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And of course, and this is just so perfect. If you wore a mask and stood 2 meters apart, then you would be someone who would do this. He's basically saying everybody would do it, because even I, the greatest mask hater of all time, had to wear a mask at some times.
Oh, yeah.
As much as I hated it. No, and from going from a guy who I commented it going like, way to go, this is one of the greatest comments ever, I got one of the dumbest comments ever. And then more, you have to watch out when new people come around, and, Joseph Anthony, if that might be Eric Anthony, a new name, I don't know. But when you come in with this type of flattery, I'm scared. This one is the dumbest one I think I've ever heard. What is the thesis of this channel? As a writer, I made a conscious effort to make the title of this channel its thesis. What flood was Armageddon? I can't make it any more clear. all Bible prophecy fulfilled, millennial reign happened. It's like, this is tough to get a full read.
Well, yeah, the white throne hasn't happened, and the final rest. Yeah,
it's like
most of it has been checked off.
So either there's a problem with what the thesis really means, or I can't use my old name, which I worked for a long time, of Flat Earth Nation Golden Age Past, which is another example of upfront with your thesis. Just put it out there,
Well, yeah, the whole, maybe, I'm not saying I know what this guy's deal is, but attention span, if someone thinks they're going to come in on any of your videos, click a couple times with 15-minute segments, and think that they've caught what you have presented in 75 minutes or 90 minutes or, well, even in 15 minutes, whatever. It's unlikely they're going to make heads or tails of what you do here, which is, when it comes to motives and intentions, I believe it's to open as many eyes, ears, hearts, and minds our Lord will allow through exposing his truth with clarity. But that might take, more than a couple 15-second clicks, random clicks.
That's our new mission statement. Pretty cool, huh? So I love it. It's a flat Earth nation. The mud flood was Armageddon, because the golden age is past, and the Bible is encouraging us to trust everything that Jesus said. And I wish I had time to go into how that includes that the stones are going to cry out, and they're reserved in judgment. All of the other lessons that we brought to the table about water, memory, and just the beautiful knowledge of our eternal salvation, and that this is not our home, and that everything we suffer for here will be so much worth it in our true home. And that's what we want you to believe. Amen. Because that's what's true. Amen. Hallelujah. Aho. Aloha. Arrivederci. Ciao. Sayonara. Auf Wiedersehen. Goodbye.